everybody. Welcome back to another Shakti Soul Sessions series episode of the Sacred Ram Alchemy podcast. It's been a minute. I just have been dealing with a lot of personal stuff, so I skipped a couple of days just to come back to center, recalibrate myself, anchor myself in my own energy. I felt the full moon. I just felt a lot of things. I've been having so many different tower moments, and it's just been so much. I needed to regulate my own nervous system, needed to heal, needed to use all my tools, needed to reach out with people who are also on this journey with me and just find support and resources. And I'm so happy that I have these tools, that I have the capacity to open myself up, to allow emotions to arise, to let it move through so that it doesn't eat me up. Because I know that feeling of when our nervous system becomes crazy, dysregulated, and it feels like we can't handle the emotions, or that it's going to take over our body and we'll never be able to stop crying or feeling these sad feelings. I know, and I can trust myself to know what to do, even if it feels like gut-wrenching pain. But don't want to get into the details, but that is just where I'm at. And it was so interesting because the other day I actually went to a birthday party and people were asking me what I do. And I feel like it's such a loaded question, especially when people ask, how did you get there? And sometimes I'm like, where do I begin? And I think when you definitely come into something that is your true soul vocation, your true life's purpose, it's like everything that you've been through, regardless of work, regardless of academia or certifications or accreditation, really prepares you for what you're meant to do on this earth. And so today I am just going to share my why, because obviously different moments of when I started this journey, it's been, different. I didn't have all the pieces that I have today, right now in this moment of 2024, November 17. And so that's where I'm going to start. And I think, when it comes to this idea of being an empowerment coach, helping people heal their family wounds and embody self-love and overcome their emotional wounds and attract that next level, healthy, loving relationship, a lot of it is my experience. A lot of it is lived experience. And I do have certifications in coaching. I do have certification in being clinically certified to be an EFT practitioner. There was trauma work in there too. So I have the accreditation as well. And a lot of the things that I do, even holding women's circles, even, it's just so many different things. I even have an MBA. And so I have a lot of that as well. But I think what makes me the most qualified is that lived experience that you cannot buy anywhere else. And to me, living in your life, being in life, is the ultimate education for whatever you're here, whatever meant to do. It's that spirit. And I often talk about with clients, it's that spiritual curriculum. And so for me, my spiritual journey, I could say that, when I have all the pieces together now in retrospect, I realized that my spiritual journey began when I was a very young kid. And, for me, I grew up in a family that was very volatile. There was untreated mental illness. And, you grew up in an environment like that. There's a lot of things that you start to take on and internalize as your own. And so as, being a byproduct of that, I grew up feeling very overly responsible for other people's feelings. I grew up thinking that if I just walked on eggshells, then everybody else will be okay and I can be okay. I grew up thinking that if I diminished my own personality, if I didn't show my true expression, then I can just be okay, be well liked, be well received, be well loved, all of those things. And so I made up these rules, which were essentially survival mechanisms and for survival instincts to just survive in the environment that I grew up in. And as a result of that, there were certain things within me that made me who I was. And wherever you go, there you are. You take that everywhere. You take that in the workplace. You take that in school. And so there was just a sense of not really knowing who I was because I wasn't nurtured in that type of environment to fully express who I was. And I think a lot of people who grow up in families that have some sort of dysfunction and I work a lot with clients that experience the same things, and there's this similar theme of not trusting yourself, not being able to express who you truly are, not being able to own your voice, being the good little girl, and relying a lot on accolades or academic or work type of accomplishments to feel worthy. But something happens where it doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right, starts to sit in, and you're like, I don't even know who I am. And so it starts to come off as a whisper. And the beautiful thing about it is a lot of our stories are very similar. And so that's why I love helping women in this capacity, because it's almost like this relation to each other. And when we uncover those things of, wow, it was actually nurtured in me, it wasn't my fault, I can change the pattern, I can be different. And that didn't start later on, but, I still had those qualities manifested in different ways. And so, it showed up, like I said, in different areas of my life, but particularly showed up in romantic relationships. And ultimately today, I understand that as a father wound and also a mother wound. And my relationship to the masculine, my relationship to the feminine. And so for me, it's just been this healing journey of understanding how my relationships are a manifestation of my family relationships. And oftentimes it's a generational thing, right? And when you do heal, you heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. I was talking to a girlfriend recently, and we're both like, wow, I believe the fact that when we incarnate into our bodies that we choose these lessons. And I was laughing at her, telling her, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm playing hot potato. I don't want this potato. I don't want this spiritual lesson. I don't want to be in this curriculum. Why did I choose it? And, we're just spiritual warriors. And so I want to remind you that if you are feeling in this place where you're like, fuck, this shit is hard. I can't believe I'm the one that gets to process, alchemize, cannibalize your karma, cannibalize your pain, cannibalize not just your karma, but your family's karma. It's fucking wild. It truly is. And I hope you know that you are a warrior, that you can do this. And so I've been actually praying a lot to the Hindu goddess Durga Ma, and her protection and her love and her ability to have the strength that when I experience certain things or when I remember certain things, I have that love and I know that I am strong enough to handle anything. And so as a lot of, my relationships were filled with emotional unavailability, still me trying to play out different ways of how I can be in order to have another person love me, all of those things. And I've talked about it in different podcasts, but it was just this feeling of not being okay with who I was, not being authentic to myself. And that stems from not even knowing who I was, because I'm always trying to be other people. It was like this chameleon. And being nervous to even share who I am because I was afraid that the other person was going to leave, or feeling this intrinsic feeling of not being worthy of anything. And what that stems from are people around you who maybe dislike themselves and they project it onto you. Maybe you've had a really, critical parent, and all of a sudden you're just like so critical with yourself. And I see that happen a lot. I see that when I work with one-on-one clients, is that usually if someone has a harsh inner critic, it's because one of their parents was. And we get to learn and extract and learn that it's not your true voice. That is actually something that was given to you. And so we really work a lot with what was passed down to you versus what is actually yours. And as an adult, as a person who's on this healing path, you get to decide whether or not you want to carry that in your actual backpack anymore, and we can drop it, right? And so essentially it's about learning to unload all of the stuff that was given to you so that you can fill your backpack with things that are exactly and authentic to you, that are relative to you. And that's the beauty of this work, that even though it is painful and we have to face certain things and we have to understand, certain woundings, or it might be complicated. And granted, I do work with this when, other people, they have therapists. I'm not a therapist, right? I always make sure that people have the resources and the tools to help them as they dive into stuff that comes to the surface. And they need more tools, they need more support, especially when it's really difficult, especially when it relates to family. I am such a proponent of having so many different tools, mentors, teachers, whatever you need your whole team. It takes a whole village, right? It takes a whole village to heal and give yourself that. And so, as I'm going on this journey, as I'm, working on my relationships, but then also at the same time, I'm being the dutiful daughter of, trying to climb up the corporate ladder, because that's just the thing you do when you are raised by immigrant parents. And, that's the thing they prioritize. It's all about that accomplishment of academia. It's all about that accomplishment of getting that promotion, doing well in your professional life. Which I need to remind you that a lot of your family shit, it shows up in the workplace. Like, I can't tell you how many clients that I work with where they're just like, oh, okay, we know, your colleague is like this, or your boss is like this, And a lot of our stuff just comes up everywhere we go. So unless you learn to actually understand it and heal it and move through it, it's not just a self-confidence issue of imposter syndrome. That's just it on the surface. What you need to look underneath is all of those times that you felt undercut, all those times that you were cut down by family members, by people at school, by people who are your peers. Or maybe you can't connect to one of your colleagues who happens to be female because you were bullied in school. A lot of this stuff we're carrying, and it's our job to awaken to it, to consciously remove it, to work with it, to process it, to heal it, so that when we show up in different places, we don't bring our shit everywhere, right? And it's always so important for me to think about the environments that am I leaving it better than when I first entered? I have to think about that. And I do it with honesty, and I do it with integrity, because we are all responsible for our own healing. We are all responsible for our own journeys, just as how you are not responsible for someone's actions or non-actions on their own healing path. And I feel myself just getting really riled up, because this is an epidemic that I feel so strongly about. And the other day I talked about a spiritual disease. I talked about people not being connected to their souls. And so it's, instead of saying, well, if I had more money, then I would feel like this. Or if I had the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the wife or the kids, then I would feel like this. You need to connect to your soul. It's not about acquiring things. It's about learning to live with the things that you have already acquired within you. What are the internal transformations? And it's so easy to say, okay, you're going to get a relationship after you work with me, or you're going to get a healthy, loving relationship after you're going to get the ability to have a better picker. You're going to be able to have the ability to know for yourself within your body when you feel something's right or wrong for you. So many people can tell you green flags, red flags, all of those things. Every single one of us, we have our own unique, identification of what that is for us. But it's up to you to find out, to work with you, what you will choose, what you won't choose. And so it's about helping you find the tools to know what is healthy, what isn't healthy. And we go through that together. And I did a lot of testing with that, I would say, in my experience of dating all these different types of men. But ultimately what it did was kept me back in the same place of, I'm having the same relationship, just with different clowns in different costumes. That's it. Until I finally learned I cannot live my life like this. I need to choose different. And so that set me on a path of wanting to do this inner work. And it really started when I got sober in 2011. So that was over 13 years ago. In January, I'll have 14 years. And so that really helped me learn to connect to my emotions, helped me learn to understand myself in a different way, and learn to help me understand how my qualities and characteristics manifested themselves in different areas of my life, whether it was in work, whether it was in relationship to my money. It was just this idea of me trying to do and collect all these different things, me trying to manipulate different things in order for me to feel better about myself, because I didn't have any type of confidence inside, deep down inside. I didn't feel that I could express myself. So a lot of the times, if you have this fear of expressing yourself, if you have this fear of, I talked about before, we don't want to start a podcast. It's look at your fear of being seen. Did you grow up in an environment where you felt like you were constantly shut down? Are you constantly thinking about people judging you, right? Or are you constantly worried about your looks? Why? Was that instilled, by your parents of how you should look? Maybe they prioritized looks because they thought that the way you look externally is a reflection of how you feel internally. And so maybe you over-index on how you actually look, and you buy lots of different clothes, you buy lots of different makeup, you want to do cosmetic surgery just so you can look good, so you can feel good, and you can have the man. And, it goes on and on. It's like a spiritual deficit that we're working with. And so that's why I always talk about how can we embody self-love. And so that's what really my path took me on this direction of. Once I realized that all my shit was coming up with all these different relationships, then I realized, okay, has to come back to me. Nothing's going to fix this hole that I feel inside that was placed inside me. But now as an adult, I need to learn how to fill it within myself. And it's very different. It's very different for everybody. The journey is different for everybody. And so I think it was like 2-3 years where I really hardcore did that. And when I started to get better, when I started to get healthy, when I started to have a healthier perspective about myself, when I started to love myself, when my confidence started to go up, when I started to believe that I was worthy, by doing different types of Kundalini Kriyas, by doing different types of EFT tapping, other somatic modalities, journal prompts, reflections, having these rituals and practices to really sit with my own experience and show myself that I love myself, that's when the people who I was attracted to were different. And that's when the people who were attracted to me started to become different. Sometimes we do this work because we want the thing. But ultimately, when I think about it, and it's so cheesy, but the best relationship you can cultivate is the one with yourself. It's the most important because you bring yourself to every single relationship, to your romantic relationship, to your working relationship, to your family relationships, to your children relationships. That is the most important thing that you need to work on. And so when I did that, everything started to change. And now I'm obviously with my partner, but it was a long, windy, hard journey. And I'm learning just how much more needs to come up to the surface and be released, just how much more, of the things that I need to heal. And so we get it little by little, and it becomes this lifetime process of learning. And so that's like the lived experience I've had. And obviously in tandem with that, I wanted to help people because I knew that I had this beautiful way of creating really safe spaces for people to go deep and understand and extricate those things that they needed to remove from their body, those emotional debris, those emotional rocks that they were carrying. And we do deep work that is so transformational that people change, that people leave and say, oh my God, my relationships are changing. I'm changing. I hold myself high, in high esteem. I feel worthy of these things. I'm not even attracted to that anymore. I know how to say these things, and I did it. And it's so beautiful to see these warrior goddesses believe in themselves and reclaim the power that's always been there that maybe hasn't been nurtured before. And it's the work that lights me the fuck up, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's about creating new families. It's about creating healthy families to produce healthy children that are emotionally well, generational wealth. It's about creating that here on earth, because when we're spiritually sick, we produce a lot of sickness in this world. And that is the ultimate reason why I do this, is because I want you to find a partner that's healthy. I want you to be healthy too. Because you being healthy, you healing yourself affects other people. It affects the type of world we live in. Imagine a world where everyone felt safe, secure, and healthy, and loved. What type of world would that be? And that is my why. That is why I do this. And so, obviously, as my own inner journey started to unfold, I wanted to get serious about it. One of my colleagues, she said she was doing a life coaching certification, ended up doing the same thing, realized I was learning things I was already inherently doing. And that's what I knew I had a knack. And then obviously I set this plan forward of, okay, let me quit my 9 to 5. That was a whole thing in itself of deconditioning myself into believing that my worth was tied to my professional accomplishments or what I did and the amount of money that I had in my bank account, and I'm still learning that, right? As an entrepreneur who's in less than her second year, I'm still learning that. And so it's just been, okay, once I was able to get the certification, let me work with different clients. Then let me get other different certifications. And that's how it unfolded, and that's how I am. And I've deviated towards different types of people that I work with. But ultimately, right now in this moment, what it comes back to is creating those healthy relationships, helping you love yourself so that you can attract those healthy, loving relationships, helping you heal, helping you understand your family wounds, helping you understand that it wasn't your fault. And so there's so much to unpack. There's so much to uncover. And I love, love, love doing this work. And this is the work that I do. This is the work that I care about and I'm so passionate about. And right now I'm offering donation-based EFT sessions. And so if you want to dive deep into what it is that you need to heal, especially as we are in the midst of the holidays and you're going to see family, maybe you're going to go into the lion's den and you're like, shit, I'm going to see family. I'm going to get triggered. It might be a landmine. I don't know what to do. And sometimes you may think, oh my gosh, maybe something comes up and you need to cancel. When something's come up for you, this is the juice of when you need it, right? It's like I mentioned before, I am not a therapist, but what I do is EFT tapping. So if there's anything that you feel emotionally heightened about, if there's any trigger that you feel emotionally heightened about, we dismantle that trigger so you can show up in the world with a regulated nervous system with peace in your heart. It's like maybe something came up super crazy and then you cancel your therapy session. Would you cancel your therapy session? No, you talk it out with your therapist. It's the same thing with EFT tapping. We're just not sitting there processing it, but what we're doing is helping your body process it so it doesn't get stuck in your body. It's a different type of, it's not verbal work, it's energetic and it's physical work. You'll feel lighter. Trust me. I have had so many clients tell me, oh my God, I came in with, heavy chest and I felt so emotionally heightened and now I feel calm. After just one round. And so what do you have to lose? It's a beautiful thing. I'd love for you to try it. And if you really want to dive deep into this work, let's do one-on-one together. I have 3 spots that are available. I will leave the link in the show notes. Book a sales call with me and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about how we can help you overcome your family wounds, your emotional wounds, those self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and work on the self-confidence and help you build up to self-worth, unshakable self-worth and self-love so you can attract those beautiful, healthy, secure, loving relationships in your life so you don't have to pass down any of that generational trauma that you experienced. Your daughter, your son gets to be healthy, emotionally healthy. Everyone keeps talking about, I want to have secure attachment systems. You have secure attachment systems by having secure parents, by seeing secure relationships. You can also work on it on yourself, right? You can learn it, but it can also come from the home, just as how the home can also produce insecure and avoidant attachment styles. And so I'm glad I answered that question that I've been asked multiple times this weekend. Got a little riled up, but it just shows you how passionate I am about this work. And if you are serious of truly breaking your relationship patterns, if you're serious and you're done self-sabotaging, and if you're serious about believing that there is a relationship there for you that you think can really help add to your life of being loving and nurturing and all of those things that you absolutely deserve, then let's work one-on-one. All right, thank you everyone. Sat Nam.